welcome back to Cindy's library. As you can see, I am trying a new filming location. Love to hear what you think about it in the comments. But today, I am here to do some more Tolkien talk. Specifically, of this little gem by J.R.R. Tolkien, Farmer Giles of Ham. So, Farmer Giles of Ham is about a farmer named Giles who lives in Ham. And things start out peacefully enough for him, but unfortunately a giant wanders down from the wilds in the northwest. And alerted by his hound, Giles goes out and shoots the giant with a blunderbuss, which doesn't really do any damage to the giant, but he is nearsighted and hard of hearing, and he does feel it a little bit. Mosquitoes is how I believe he describes it, or stinging flies, and he decides to wander back north thanks to Farmer Giles's actions, which is great until a dragon comes into the neighborhood. And when the king and all his knights fail to do anything, guess who the town looks to defend them? You guessed it, Farmer Giles of Ham. And this dragon, his name is Chrysophylax, which is an excellent name. He is a fierce enough dragon, although he's actually rather lazy and would kind of rather not fight, especially far from home. And thanks to Giles's actions with the dragon, he had been given a sword which ends up being very much an anti-dragon sword. I forget what its fancy name is, but Tailbiter is the common name, and Chrysophylax definitely does not want to mess with Tailbiter. And so it goes on with him becoming a more and more important person in spite of himself. He ends up being quite the hero in spite of himself. The background of this story is originally it was one Tolkien made up for his children. And it was actually written down. They must have really enjoyed it. And let's see, when would it have been? 1927 seems to be about when it was rewritten. Now, that is important because, where is it? Tolkien decided to read this story to the Lovelace Society in 1938, and he heavily revised it. He toned down some of the things for children, and he added pun upon philological pun for his audience, who he knew would appreciate it. All these Latin names, the name of Giles's cow basically means milk goddess, and things along those lines in Latin. So for anyone who would have known Latin, who would have known the history of the area around Oxford, etc., it would have been quite hilarious. Now, and then this was further revised a bit and submitted and actually published by Allen and Unwin later, and illustrated by Pauline Baynes, whose illustrations you may be already familiar with, as she was the original illustrator for the Narnia series for C.S. Lewis. And so, in fact, I think it was on strength of Tolkien's recommendation based on Baynes' work for Farmer Giles of Ham that C.S. Lewis decided to go with her for his Narnia illustrations. So there's that. So this is a lovely edition put together by the great Tolkien duo Hammond and Scholl, Christina Scholl and Wayne G. Hammond. And what makes this so special is we've got an introduction by Hammond and Scholl. We've got Tolkien's foreword. We've got the main version of Farmer Giles of Ham, and they have included the first version of the story, or at least the first draft that they could find. And we get a few notes about a possible sequel that Tolkien was considering about Giles' son George. And we get a gallery of illustrations by Pauline Baynes that she did especially for an anniversary edition of Farmer Giles of Ham, and extensive notes. So everything we aren't familiar with anymore that are puns in Farmer Giles of Ham, you can look them up in the back. But yeah, I don't know how well you can see these illustrations, but aren't they great? Christophelax looks so sad in this picture on this side, where my finger is moving right now. It is great. Oh, and I also have to say about the introduction that Tolkien did or not the introduction, the foreword. It is written in a very mock scholarly format and complete with excuse for presenting a translation of this curious tale out of the very insular Latin into the modern tongue of the United Kingdom. Grandiose title has been suitably reduced to Farmer Giles of Ham, Boundaries of the Little Kingdoms, Seven Kingdoms, Fragmentary Legends, and so on and so forth, explaining the supposed scholarly origins and scholarly commentary on Farmer Giles of Ham, which I'm sure the Lovelace Society would have equally found amusing. And so that is Farmer Giles of Ham in a nutshell. Very funny, very worth reading. And this edition is especially nice because of all of the notes, etc. And the fact that it includes an original version and some information about the possible sequel. So there you have it. I'm not sure how well the main version would do with children just because of all of the scholarly and philological puns. But if you get this edition, you could definitely read the original version to them, and they'd probably get a hoot out of it because there's plenty to be amused at just by that. So I think that wraps it up for this episode of Cindy's Library. Thank you so much for stopping by. If you've read Farmer Giles of Ham, or if this video encourages you to do so, I'd love to hear what you think about it. And as always, I hope you all stay safe and healthy, and happy reading.